The story begins with a red-haired man who says, "It was a beautiful dream," and he wanted to end everything by removing it from the root. As we see him impaled on some spikes, he says it sure was unfortunate, and if only he hadn't done, but he doesn't finish his sentence as he dies before he can. At this moment, a yellow-haired person appears before him and says that he is finally dead. He also comments that this is how a villain dies, a meaningless death, as he walks away from his body. And that was the epilogue called The Villain's End. We see a man sighing as he is the novelist who wrote it, and his name is Nam Woo-hyun. And he says that with the death of the strongest villain in the world, his series appeared to be soon about to end. And the next chapter should wrap things up. It's a miserable experience writing a novel that he didn't want to write. He starts stretching, saying that at last he can finally call it quits after tomorrow, and that he should leave his regrets behind. Somebody starts knocking his door, which surprises him, and he wonders who it could be at this hour. He says that it's too late for anyone to be knocking so late, and he walks over to the door, asking who it is. As he gets closer, the sound stops. He thought that maybe it appeared to be some drunkard, and he says that he should just go to bed instead. But as he's heading back, he looks up, spotting a piece of paper floating in the air. He wonders where this paper came from, and as he starts reading it, it says that it is a gift and to please ask when he is in need. Woo-hyun just wonders what this gift means, and then a dark, red, ominous aura starts to leak out of it, and he sees the corpse of the villain character he created. That catches Woo-hyun off guard, and the villain says that this must be how he dies, and he's put in a lot of time and effort. He spent 10 years sharpening his blade to take revenge on the people that killed his family. He says that he's lost his lover, his friends, and he gave up on many more, but he still failed, though he's sure that Woo-hyun knows that better than anyone. Woo-hyun asks what he means by failed and asks what he means by that. The man starts to stretch his hand out toward him. Woo-hyun screams as the aura starts to envelop him. The man asks him to please do it for him, and that he'll witness what he can create. As everything starts to distort around him, we see a man laying peacefully in a bed. As he slowly opens his eyes, Woo-hyun sits up wondering if he passed out, only to see an unfamiliar area in front of him. He noticed his surrounding, and when he sees his clothes, he thought, what the heck's with his clothes? And he walks over toward the mirror, asking what is going on. As he's finally seeing his face, he says that this ominously crimson head of hair and the slime mouth, paired with his thin, slitted eyes that hid any trace of emotion. He could tell what had happened. As it appears, he has possessed his body, and that this is the body of none other than Arson Adele, the most powerful villain in his novel. And moreover, it's just a few days before his assassination. We learn he is of a half-demon bloodline. The Arson family is a line of mixed bloods descended from demons, and thanks to the power that lay within their blood. They were once one of the greatest families in the empire. However, they fell due to 6 specific families, and the bloodline of the Arson family lies solely with him. Adele, that is his backstory, and the reason he became a villain. He attempted to take revenge, but failed, and that's why he brought him his creator here. In a few days, he will die to the knights of the 6 families. He opens his status window, saying that in terms of talent, he is one of the most gifted in his novel. However, it can't compare to the gift of talents he bestowed on the main characters. And no matter how attractive the villain may be, he had no intention of letting them defeat the main character. Moreover, he is also unable to currently control his mana. And he can't believe the backstory he set to make him intimidating would come to wrap around his own throat like this. He sees the paper floating on his bed, which catches him off guard, and he recognizes it. The thought is the same paper that suddenly appeared before Adele put him into the novel in the first place, and he'd completely forgotten about it. He says even if it turns out to not be of much help, he's not in a spot to be picky, and he remembers it saying to ask when he needed something. As he sees the paper, he's confused, asking why it's blank and where the text went. He then says that this is how he would meet his end. It then starts writing, calling him the creator, telling him that if he does not know how to use the gift. If he knows how to use the gift, please answer yes or no. Woo-hyun starts shaking, asking what the heck he means by creator. Then he realizes that it's none other than Adele who appear to be writing this. Adele just tells him to write yes or no on the paper. Woo Hyun writes yes because he's ignoring him. The scroll begins to form text saying how to use information purchase, and that he will answer anything he writes on this paper, and some questions do not have a price, but others do. Adele tells him that the more important the question is, the higher the price. Woo Hyun asks how he can return to his real world. Adele tells him that is impossible. Woo Hyun thought that he wasn't even counting on it, but if so, he needs to know the method to use Manhwa and how to use Adele's traits, since he needs to take care of what's urgent. Adele tells him that this question does not require payment, and mana manipulation and the method using his traits have been imprinted into his body, asking if he will accept it. Woo Hyun says yes, and he starts to smile, saying that he can feel the mana. The first trait is called darkness, and it's the ability to take away someone's five senses. As we see him creating a little vortex on his hand, he says it should normally be much larger, but this will definitely come in handy. The next is the power to restrain opponents with his aura called Killing Intent, and it also works. Knights or trained soldiers will be able to withstand it, but it should work on ordinary people. Now he just needs to understand Adele's broken talent, which is called Position Transfer 1. It is power to switch places with an object of his choosing, and it's the best assassination skill that there is. He then starts practicing skill of position transfer, called Designate. He realized that he can only designate around about 20 square yards, and it's pathetic compared to his power in the novel. But if he keeps practicing, he can increase its unrealized potential. He decides to try his transfer with the suit of armor that's in his room. As it starts going toward it, forming a tether between the two of them. Then he uses the another position transfer, which is called Move, and he and the suit of armor start to swap places in an instant, causing one to stumble forward into the wall. He says that he guesses he can't get on the first try, but since he's racing against time, he is okay with having to do it hundreds of times if he needs to, and he'll succeed and survive. As there's knights from the 6 families on their way to kill him, the knight states that they must ensure they kill the Adele this time. As they speak, the main gates to the family estate open and the knights make their way inside. The butlers look anxious as a man asks where Adele is. We are introduced to the captain of Leon County as Captain Feltz. The butlers tell him that he is inside his room. Then Feltz asks for his state. They say he hasn't moved for a few days. Feltz seems a bit disappointed, and he and his men barge into the room. We see Woo Hyun, but now let's call him Adele because that's whose body he's in now. Adele welcomes Sir Feltz and says that surely Feltz must not have any ideas of letting a young kid live. Feltz says that's absurd, telling his men to eliminate him. One of them walks forward saying, "Yes, sir." Adele uses the first ability of Position Transfer Designate. He then swaps his position with the soldier's weapon and uses Position Transfer Move skill, and he stabs the soldier directly in the throat, much to the surprise of Feltz and his guards. Adele then lands back on his feet and Feltz south at his men to stop watching and to kill him already. Adele takes the chance to flee by jumping out of the window, and as he's falling, he throws his dagger to the floor. He then tethers himself to it and then moves to avoid the fall damage. He thought that he needs to get to the arson forest as fast as he can. As he starts running into it, Feltz tells his men that they need to chase him. Now that he's made his way into the arson forest, we see him running exhausted. He thought even if he gets lucky and somehow loses the knights and manages to clear the territory, there's no way he'll survive. So instead, he'll go through the gate in this forest to the demonic realm that has currently taken great damage because of a war with the humans. If he shows them enough talent, they might even accept him. But the issue is something else. Before he can explain it, he hears horses and wonders if they've already caught up to him. He heard Feltz telling his men to spread out and find him. And then he continues saying that the issue is he doesn't know exactly where the gate is, but he's sure that he's decently near it. He then steps on a tree branch, which makes cracking sound that alert the knight, and he realizes that this is bad. As a massive green aura attack starts cleaving through the forest, Feltz says that he knew Adele was hiding and appeared to be somewhere around there. We see Adele landing with his position transferability, and he thought that he can only do it 1 or 2 more times, and he needs to hurry and find the gate. But he says maybe there's no other way. He then asks the actual Adele for the exact location of the gate that leads to the demonic realm. He says the information has a price, and he needs to pay with 100 gold coins or an artifact with a rank of relic or above. Adele says that there's no way he would have something like that right now. But a powerful attack starts from behind, sending him flying through the air. As he starts rolling along the ground, he crashes into a tree. Felt approaches him, asking if he ran away because he wanted to live. And he says that he will die here whether he likes it or not. Adele tells him not to make him laugh, as he's not going to die here because there's still one method left. And whether he lives or dies, he decides that it's worth a shot. Feltz asks if he's really going to resist until the end, saying that he supposes he still is the patriarch. Adele asks why Feltz was acting all dignified when a bunch of adults have to come catch one kid, and that he should change his career to nanny, because that's more like what it is. Then Adele mockingly says it would still probably be too difficult for the dude by himself. Feltz gets taunted and says that he's going to send him off without pain. But now he will pierce Adele's heart with a sword that has been granted to him by Count Leon. He thrusts forward, telling Adele to die, but Adele smiles, saying now is his chance. He holds up the scroll paper as Feltz's sword attacks it, and then the scroll thanks him for paying the price. It is barely more than the required price, but it is going to guide him to the Gatoff demonic realm. Adele's just glad that his gamble paid off, while Feltz is surprised and confused since his sword is starting to vanish out of his hand. Adele then looks over, seeing a giant red light guiding him, and he uses his position transfer to instantly get closer to it. Feltz watches him leave and yells at him to stop, but Adele has no plans to. He can't believe that he got followed all the way to the arson forest in the first place. He's now finally right in front of the demonic gate. Adele ruses toward the light, while the knight standing behind him yells, saying that he won't let him go, and throw the piece of log, sending it directly towards him. As it gets close to the back of his head, Adele smiles, saying that he'll see him next time, and he moves himself into the portal. And Feltz just looks pissed off that Adele actually managed to escape from him. Adele even gives him a little salute. Feltz screams, "Darn it." Scene shift where we know that Adele went into the demonic realm. Adele wonders how much time has passed. As we see him eating some dry meat, he says after waking up from passing through the gate, he appeared to be inside of a dungeon. It's a man-made dungeon that someone created called the Secret Demonic Arts Place. He wonders why there's even dry meat in a stone bed in the first place, and if someone appeared to be protecting a treasure there. Not to mention, there's a barrier that deflects blades from the front and a stone guardian. He doesn't know which high-ranking family made this, but it's full of strange aspects, and that guardian is scary just to look at. If he goes for it now, he might just get destroyed. The paper starts lighting up, telling him that this is the first time he will not receive a penalty, but he cannot offer objects that are not in his possession as a price, and not following the rule will result in no exchange of information. Adele thought this guy is insane, but this means he's letting it go this time around. He then notices something strange in stone wall. He walks over, putting his palm on it, and he says that he can sense these things as he is in Adele's body. A voice tells him that he does not have the right, and he thinks it's a function that deactivates the barrier, saying that it's a shame and he needs to find another method to get out of there. He looks at a piece of stone on the ground, thinking that it fell from the guardian, so if it's stone, things might go his way. He starts to tether himself towards it, and then moves, swapping where he and the stone are. Now that he's teleported past the barrier, he is glad that it actually worked. But he didn't realize that Guardian leaps directly at him, mouth open. Scene shift to a giant castle. Somebody spilled something on the floor and is getting yelled at for spilling the water on the floor as another person watches from up top. We are introduced to a patriarch of the demonic realm, Bear's family, named Crete. Crete says that Ashur is busy, perhaps because his daughter is attempting to raid the mid-level hidden domain soon, and that this is quite tricky. If she succeeds, she'll receive the right to enter the Saitan, which is a demonic realm school. But even if he orders her to fail, she'll go against his words. That is because only through entering Sidon will she be able to get revenge on the humans who killed her mother. He thinks that she's feeble, and if she will be able to survive in a place where only demon-like bastards gather, and he sigh out of worry. Then we see a maid enters, telling him that there's trouble, and he asks what it is for her to be causing such fuss. She apologizes as she just wanted to inform him there appear to be news that someone is in the hidden domain right now. He asks if she's certain it's in hidden domain. She says yes. There are no traces of them having opened the door to enter, so everyone is confused. Creed asks if their identity has been revealed, and she says that they touched the function that only Creed can use from inside, but that's about all they know. They don't know who he is. Creed says that perhaps he appeared to be forcibly summoned through the gate that appeared to be made during the human-demon war. But he tells the maid that he'll definitely die, so not to worry about it, and that they should focus on preparing for his daughter's exam. She says, understood, and Creed looks out of window, saying that if things go well, he might get a good pawn if they don't die in the hidden domain. That is, it jumps back to Adele, and he's swapping his place with the stone once more. As he screams and reaches for the ground, he says that he almost died, and that means even if the barrier disappears, he'll be in trouble if he goes out. But then he says, wait, wasn't the guardian made out of stone too? And he decides to try it. As he begins to activate his designate ability, tethering himself to the guardian, he smiles, saying that it worked. He then swaps their position, putting the barrier in between the two of them. The guardian is surprised and starts attacking the barrier, trying to get out. Adele says that he's going to die doing that, and that now he just needs to find the exit. But he immediately comes to a standstill as there's another barrier, this time a praying mantis on the other side. He says there's going to be a mission at every stage, it seems, and that it's more dangerous than the wolf. But as expected, it appeared to be also made out of stone. He's now left it on the other side as well. Now this time the terrain begins falling, and he starts swapping places with it. He says that this is very easy as long as there is a position to transfer within the trap area. He safely lands on the other side, and voice welcome him for reaching the end. Adele's surprised they're welcoming an intruder. He says it seems like the boss room, asking if there's someone in there. As he moves forward, he sees a skeleton in armor, and Adele recognizes it as a Death Knight. He says based on his force, he seems to be similar to Feltz. The Death Knight tells Adele that he expresses his respect for making it all the way there. As Adele tethers himself to it and swaps the two of them once more, the Death Knight is still just trying to finish his sentence. Adele spots the treasure, saying that it's bigger than he thought. There's also an ornament with a black dragon engraved on it. He says the ornament seems familiar, wondering where he's seen it before. He says that of the highest-ranked demon families, Black Dragon is evil and prideful, which is the seventh in pride, which is also the bear's family. He thought if Crete were to catch him, then he is dead for sure. He opens the box, saying that since it's come to this, he will empty it and run, and there must be a useful item in this place that would help him escape. But as he opens it, something jumps out of the box and attaches to his face, causing him to start choking. It forcefully enters his throat, choking him and causing pain, and he grabs on his head, screaming in agony. And then we see a ton of blood flying out. We hear Adele panting as we see his eyeball on the ground. He wondered how long he was unconscious for and why his eye popped out. He pulls out his sword and looks at his reflection and sees that his eye is now black and purple. He wonders if the liquid that jumped at him is what he thinks it is. As he starts looking at his stats, we see that he has gained a trait now called the Eye of Superbia, which gives him an extreme increase in dynamic eyesight that activates after killing an enemy. He says with this he'll never lose to groups of people weaker than him, and thinks it's not bad that he might have made the right choice in coming to Demonic Realm. He stands up saying that he's gotten everything he needs, so he should head out. And he says that he appeared to be too focused on the chest, that he didn't realize that there is a door behind him. He wonders what to do as he made quite a commotion, so a lot of troops will be waiting outside, and he'll die if he heads out. And he wonders if he needs to kneel faster than light for him to not die on sight. He says, First things first, if they find out that he's from the arson family, they'll kill him even if he begs for mercy. So, he needs to hide his insignia. The Death Knight yells, saying to open the door now, which startles Adele, and it says that Her Highness is coming quickly, so open the door. Adele wonders what this means, and then says that maybe the reason there appear to be is for dried meat and a rock bed because this place is a domain created by the higher families for testing. He says that he needs to find out who owns it. As he stole the reward they should have gotten, they'll cut him to pieces on the spot. So he asks the scroll who the closest character to him is. Adele says that that information has a price, so he should pay with something that has a value of 100 gold coins or an artifact with a rank of relic or above. He wonders what else he can pay with and decides to use his mana and pays with 100 of his max mana. He says it's going to be rough, but he can always recover it once he survives. Adele agrees to the deal and starts taking his mana and says that the closest person to him is none other than Renee, the youngest daughter of Crete. As we see her walking forward, Adele says that his life is over and this is a domain created by the bear's family for the youngest daughter's training and that the Eye of Superbia must be her reward for when she finishes the domain. And Renee, who has sufficient authority within the family, is going to cut down the guardians like butter and show up in front of him. She's doing exactly that. We see her killing the Death Knight in one strike. She glares over, staring at Adele, and he says that he'll do it. She points her blade at him and asks who he is. He gets on one knee and congratulates her in clearing the domain, saying that she has finally become worthy. She starts to release killing intent, telling him to explain now, and he says that the Patriarch has ordered him to act as her guard. He says that their eyes met, but she didn't seem to recognize the Eye of Superbia. She asks if they really sent him for this, and he says that despite how he looks, he's rather skilled and is going to use her to get out of there. She starts to laugh, and he wonders if maybe she doesn't trust him. He swaps places with her sword, closing the gap in an instant. This catches her off guard, and we see her holding onto his wrist, and he says that he believes he will be useful in protecting her. She immediately pulls her hand away and seems extremely pissed, but she shrugs it off, and he says thankfully she's overlooking it. Adele says she should head out and that she should head to the Patriarch immediately as he's waiting. She says okay, and he says that he'll be on his way to take care of other tasks the Patriarch has entrusted him. He thought he needs to get out of there as soon as he can. As he opens the door, he says that he'll make sure not to be late. Renee freezes up, and we see her father Crete standing in front of her. Crete begins laughing while releasing an aura, and Adele says that this is bad, and he wonders why Crete is there, that he will kill him if he sees that he took the Eye of Superbia, but he wonders why he's not reacting. He asks if she successfully cleared the domain, and she says yes while sweating nervously. He says that's good, and ordered Adele to follow him. And Adele just wonders what he's thinking. As he starts following as well, he says it's impossible to shake them all off, and he's out of things to offer the paper, which means he can't use its power. They finally head to the mansion, which Adele recognizes, and Crete stop, telling everybody to return to their quarters. He orders Adele to wait there, as he'll call for him later. Adele thought that this is his chance to leave, but he senses people watching him from the bushes and says, never mind. Back inside of his office, we see Renee standing before Crete, and he says that she's finished his last task, asking if she really must enter the training facility. She says yes, and he looks back up at his window, thinking about it, asking how Adele is. This question catches her off guard, and she thinks about how Adele instantly closed the gap and says that he's strong. Crete smiles, saying that he sees, and this is pretty intriguing, but he tells her that since she has proven herself worthy, she may now head to Sidon, just as she wished. She gets really excited thanking him, but Crete thought that Intruder would die immediately after breaking into the domain, but he survived and even claimed the Eye of Superbia, and there's also Renee's opinion of him, and that he is definitely worth using. But Adele just wonders how long he need to be waiting there. Sometime later at sunset, we see Adele inside being led by a butler, and the butler tells Crete that he's brought him. We see Crete sitting at his desk, and he begins to glare at Adele. Adele just wonders what he's thinking, asking why he let him live. Crete smiles, calling him a bastard, saying that he sure fooled his daughter well, and release more strong purple aura. It starts to pressure Adele to the point that he finds it hard to breathe. And then he falls onto the ground saying that he knows he doesn't plan on killing him. Crete immediately retracts his aura as he finds it curious, and Adele thinks that Crete's demonic energy sure is incredible. Crete tells him that he's quick-witted asking what his name is, and Adele introduces himself. Crete then raises his hand with aura around it that makes Adele float up into the sky. He brings him really close to him, and Adele asks what he wants from him. Crete tells him to open his mouth as we see a small serpent flying toward him. Crete says that he just needs to continue doing what he tells his daughter. As the creature starts to crawl down his throat, Crete says that if he has any other thoughts, that poison will rip apart his heart. He will also prepare somewhere for him to stay, so to wait until he calls him. He tells Adele to take his leave, but Adele just wonders what the hell is all this. He gets taken to a house, and the butler says he will be staying here from now on. Adele explains how he became a dependent of this household because of Crete's will, but he's thankful enough that he let him live. But he can tell that he is being used. He was partially acknowledged by Crete, so this might be a good situation, but above all, he needs to get rid of this thing in his chest, for his transfer has to work. He says it worked as it wasn't a living object. He says he's glad that it's not active, and if it failed, that would have been nasty. He knows Crete will notice if he kills it. So, he wonders what to do. The creature starts to open its eyes, and Adele says it's waking up because the mana it consumed from inside his body got cut off. So, he starts to put some mana onto his fingertip, telling it to eat this, and that he has no choice but to appease it like this. As he starts telling it to go back to sleep, it does so as it curls up on its little bed. He made it, and he sighs, saying that he can finally relax. He wonders how much more he'll have to deal with, and he thinks he's going to pass out. He opens his status window once more, and he says that he should still check. We see his position transfer has now become level 2, but the mana amount is the issue. And compared to the protagonists, it's just a drop in the ocean, and he wonders how to increase it and what he must do. Then he remembers there's a method. Next day, as we see Renee telling him that she doesn't like it, Adele asks what she means, and he says that it's actually been 3 days since he's been assigned as her guard. She always shows very cold reactions toward him. When she appeared to be younger, she had a bright personality. But after losing her mother to the humans, she changed. And as the author, he feels sorry for her. One of the butlers starts calling out for the both of them, saying that Crete is looking for them both. The reason the patriarch would call them must be regarding her entrance to Sidon. Although she hoped she'd be able to since she succeeded at writing the domain, Crete did not allow this. Crete tells her that Sidon is not an easy place, and with her ability, she'd die after a while without being able to properly avenge her mother. Adele says that he feels like he shouldn't be here. As Renee starts to get gloomy, Crete says that if she were to take Adele as her guard, he will permit the entrance to the academy. She shakes her head, saying no, and Adele wonders why she hates him so much. He explains that Sidon is the demonic realm school, where all of the demonic realms' prospering children gather. They were constantly in conflict with the imperial school, which the protagonist went to. In that setting, many students, including Renee, die. It's the worst location where everybody's deaths are just inevitable. Renee's eyes start to tear up, and Adele says he doesn't understand why she's trying to go to a place like that, and if it were him. But then he says that maybe it's the best place for them to gather forces. He knows most of the big incidents that occur between the Imperial School and Saitan, and he decides to try it. He tells Crete he has a request. Crete stares at him, and Adele thinks that if he's going to be dragged there, he should get away with what he can. He then requests that he wants something related to mana. Crete laughs, saying that he'd asked him to remove what's in his chest instead. Adele thinks that surely he can't let him know about the fact that the poison worm inside of him is already gone. Renee sees him shaking, and Crete calls him an arrogant bastard, but it's not a difficult request, so he'll hear him out. He tells Renee to take her leave, and she bows. And as she walks away, she stares back to Adele. He wonders why she hates the idea of going with him so much. Adele wonders what Crete is going to give him an elixir, but an artifact wouldn't be bad either. Crete says that it's a treasure that those of the family might react sensitively to. So, he sends his daughter away. This catches Adele off guard that it's a family treasure, as Crete tells him that he knows the mana he has is very little. He'll die in his daughter's place, so this much he can do for him. He tells Adele to come close, as he'll transfer the bear's family's mana cultivation technique to him. Adele did not expect this dash, the mana cultivation technique. Crete begins chanting, "O demon god, grant your servant clarity amidst chaos. Bestow upon us rightful trials, and let not the thousands of demons starve, yet do not test them either. Should you heed our call, your name shall be glorified." Adele sighs once the ceremonial chant concludes. Crete notes that an ordinary person would have lost their sanity after hearing such words, calling Adele an intriguing individual. With this cultivation technique, mana will be directly bestowed upon him by the demon god, granting him power to obtain whatever he desires. Adele is startled to hear that the source is the demon god. Crete then implies that Adele's family may be connected to the 7 deadly sins. When Adele presses for clarification, Crete reveals that he has already planted a worm poison inside him, making it irrelevant whether Adele is a spy. Adele thought that he never included the arson family among the 7 deadly sins. Crete simply tells him he can leave. Outside, in the forest, Adele sits meditating on a rock. He decides to train there, fearing his mana might spiral out of control. As he begins to feel the energy swirl around him, he calls out to the demon god. He knows that accepting demonic energy will forever prevent him from using human mana, but he has no other choice. The demon god appears, glaring down with glowing red eyes, calling him a mongrel. Adele is confused and wonders if the demon god means what he thinks. The god states he doesn't believe Adele carries the blood of that child, but rather the blood of a filthy traitor. Adele asks if he is truly the demon god, to which the entity confirms, revealing he is known as the god of pride. Adele nervously inquires if the god intends to kill him. The demon god replies that had he wanted that, Adele would already be dead. Instead, he finds himself unwilling to kill Adele, perhaps because they share the same sin. As a sign of kinship, he bestows upon Adele a mark symbolizing their shared path. However, he warns Adele not to succumb to pride, even while calling him an arrogant traitor. Adele learns that receiving this mark grants him 3 additional lives. The mark appears as a tattoo. Suddenly, he senses someone behind him and turns to find Renee watching from behind a tree. Unsure if she overheard anything, he's taken aback when she blushes and calls him a dark priest. He wonders what misunderstanding she's having. Back at the house, Adele reflects that it's been a month since he received the mark, and his mana has increased drastically, likely due to his traits of interest and focus. He thinks that in a few years, he might surpass the heirs of the 6 human houses. For now, he could even conquer the hidden domain. However, he's distracted by the sight of Renee training outside his house instead of at the usual grounds. He approaches her, and she responds with surprising formality. He notes that while it's nice, she's no longer avoiding him. She mistakenly believes he's a priest. In this world, only dark priests can commune with the demon god, so her assumption makes sense. However, her treating him like a superior might cause dangerous rumors. He tells her to treat him the same as she did before, explaining that he's only following Crete's orders to protect her. Taking his words literally, she promptly orders him to fetch water, leaving him stunned. As expected from the family of pride, her demeanor shifts instantly. Resigned, he agrees. Later, as she drinks the water, Adele contemplates the urgent need to conquer the domain before the main character reaches the demonic realm. He needs the treasure to survive in Saitan. When he asks Renee about her preparations for Saitan enrollment, she questions his sudden interest. He explains its concern for her well-being, urging her to double-check everything. Suspicious, Renee accuses him of trying to sneak off somewhere and even wonders if he's tired of her. Caught off guard, Adele fabricates a story about planning to conquer a nearby domain for her safety. Surprisingly, she buys it, sort of, and decides to go with him. She unsheathes her blade, ready for battle. We learn that it's called the Domain of the Undying, a place Adele explains was once ruled by necromancers, but after the human-demon war, it became a land overrun by wraith-like soldiers. Renee acknowledges she knows about the area. Adele deduces that if the domain unsettles her, it must be at least a mid to upper level domain. The number of enemies will likely have increased, so her help might be valuable. However, traveling together makes it harder to hide their mission from Crete. He warns her not to come if it's too risky, especially if the patriarch finds out. She interrupts him, revealing she knows a secret exit. They head to one of the outer walls where she uncovers a hidden hole. Adele remarks on her familiarity with sneaking out, to which she offers no denial. They escape through the hole and reach a mountain ridge. Adele asks how much farther they need to go, admitting he's unfamiliar with the area since he's never had a reason to leave the estate. Renee tells him they're close. They soon reach a site of ruins. Renee mutters, "Darn son of a Cerberus," which Adele guesses is equivalent to an insult in their world. He notes that only he knows the true entrance to the domain, hidden under the largest rock statue. They begin digging and find it. As they descend into the domain, torches light their path. Adele is surprised by the brightness and notices a church ahead, confirming they're in the right place. Inside, Adele compares the place to the bear's domain, but on a much higher level, likely containing 100 new graves. Renee urges them to move forward, and Adele draws a dagger. Suddenly, skeleton soldiers rise from the ground. Adele tells Renee he'll leave this to her, and she charges in with a burst of aura, shattering the enemies. Adele notes that a necromancer must be summoning them from the back. Renee rushes ahead, but the defeated bones reassemble. A sinister voice welcomes them, revealing itself as the necromancer, and commands its undead to eliminate the intruders. Renee is frustrated that the enemies keep reviving, and Adele explains they must defeat the caster to end it. Before he can say more, he's ambushed, but manages to decapitate the enemy. He tells Renee that destroying the caster's orb will break the summoning. A massive skeletal warrior appears, but Renee charges forward, obliterating it. Adele uses his upgraded teleportation ability, tethering to the caster's orb and swapping places with a designated sword. He catches the orb mid-air and crushes it with his mana, ending the spell. With the necromancer defeated, the soldiers vanish. The caster thanks Adele, and Adele notes the tragedy here all happened because of what he wrote, and that he sure hopes it's at peace. She then calls out to him, asking if there's something left to do, and he says it's time for the reward. Among the loot, he finds the Fong of Darkness, a dagger that converts darkness into mana and boosts speed in the dark, and the Eternal Full Moon Ring, which enhances mana sensitivity under moonlight. Adele lets Renee have the ring while he keeps the dagger. As he places the ring on her finger, she blushes intensely. He's puzzled by her reaction, wondering if it carries symbolic meaning in demon culture. She's overwhelmed by the ring's power and thanks him. Adele jokes about taking all the gold, but quickly backtracks when she glares at him, claiming he meant to divide it equally. They return to the mansion. Adele spends his days running errands for Renee, or training his mana. After a month, he's reached 1,300 mana, average for the demon realm. One day, Crete summons both him and Renee, telling them it's time to enter Sidon. They prepare to head to the capital for their academy entrance. Renee hesitates, but bows to her father. Adele follows suit. As they depart, Crete wishes him well. Adele watches Crete watching them, thinking that even demons care about their children. Though uncertain of what lies ahead, he resolves to accomplish his goals in Sidon. The journey to the capital begins. Adele notices Renee hasn't spoken a word since they departed, and he wonders if he did something wrong. She glances over at him, thinking that she didn't like him at first because he looked suspicious, but he's better looking than she thought. Adele awkwardly laughs, saying that the weather sure is great today. Renee reflects that his words and actions may seem unconvincing, and while he lacks power, he might truly be a priest. She recalls witnessing him speak to the demon god and decides not to doubt him, even if it seems foolish. Looking down at the ring on her finger, she blushes deeply, noting that in the demon realm, a ring placed by someone of the opposite gender is considered an eternal vow. She wonders what kind of vow Adele made when he did it so casually. Adele tries to break the tension, saying they'll arrive in about an hour. Renee seems disappointed that's all he had to say, but responds with a simple okay. He's still confused and asks if he did something wrong, but she tells him to be quiet as she plans to take a nap. They finally arrive in the capital of the demon realm. Adele is surprised to see how similar it looks to the human world, though its medieval aesthetic and the residents' horns and tattoos distinguish it. Elite demons are marked by visible tattoos, like one he notices on a passerby's neck, similar to his own. Renee calls out to him, urging him to keep up. She informs him that the entrance exam is in 2 days, but they must register first. Adele suggests sightseeing, but she declines, seemingly uninterested. He wonders if she's feeling homesick, noting that she rarely left the house since her mother's death, and he can't figure her out. As they continue forward, he says that Sidan is incredible and it must be triple the size of an ordinary university. As they arrive to register, an official sneers at someone and tell him to come back in 2 days. He calls for the next, and Adele says they're here to register for entry. Official is confused, asking Adele what he is, since he doesn't seem to be a demon, asking if a half-demon is really trying to apply, and they may have lost the war, but he asks what kind of place he thinks this is. Adele says he can see a depressing future ahead if somebody as ugly as this is going to treat him so badly. Official continues to flame him, and Renee asks what's wrong, and he looks over, spotting her. He spots her horns, saying that this sure is incredible, as he didn't expect to see a child of one of the 7 deadly sins houses, and that if she's an applicant, she should state her house and identity. She says house bears in her name, and that this is her guard who will be admitting along with her. He says that if they're allowing a half-demon to be a bodyguard, the 7 deadly sins sure have lowered their standards, and he can't believe that Satan's about to get one admitted. She tells him this is enough, and she will not stand by and watch him insult the bear's house any further. Official says they don't discriminate against the identity of the applicant, so to forget about what he remarked, and he asks for Adele's house and identity. Adele lies, claiming he's from House Pixie, and provides his name. The official responds that their registration is complete, and they should return in a couple of days. Reflecting on the past, Adele explains that during the Human-Demon War, half-demons were powerful allies to the humans. It's no surprise the demons harbor resentment toward them, though the hostility frustrates him. He knows there's little he can do about it. Turning to Renee, he says they should find a place to stay for the time being. She's still just pissed. We see them standing in front of one of the houses, and he says this looks good enough. She says that the buildings here are too old, but he tells her it can't be helped because they don't have money. The 10 gold decree gave them will barely be enough for the 2 of them to live on for a month. After the war's aftermath, House Bears has become poor, so he couldn't ask for more. He asks if they should go in now, and as they do, they get welcomed as he asks if there's enough room for 2 people to stay in for 2 days. He says there is, but then he asks if he'll be in the same room as the person beside him, making Renee freeze up. He tells the dude separate rooms, as she's literally steaming out of her head. He says that it'll be 2 gold for 2 rooms for 2 days, and that they're on the 2nd floor. Adele says that this much is around 200,001 in Korean currency, so it's not too bad. She says that she'll head up first, and she looks a little disappointed. He says that he'll bring up the luggage soon, telling her to have a good rest. She's still a little withdrawn, but says that he should too. And he says that she's always lived in a huge mansion, so it must be her first time sleeping in a place like this, but she'll probably get used to it soon, though. Adele says that it's time for him to rest up for the next 2 days as well. It jumps to the academy as a soldier is yelling, telling all the applicants to head inside and follow the instructions. Adele says there are so many people. He wonders if there's at least 100 here. He can't believe there are this many applicants signing up to defeat humans, and he must be careful to not get his identity exposed. Somebody says that from this point onwards, they should all have their ID and board in order. Adele wonders what exactly they're boarding. As a train pulls up into the station, Adele says that he did not expect this. They say multiple maze-like dimensional gates have been set up to block intruders. Only by taking the train can one come sight in. To think that enormous fortress they just caught sight of appeared to be just a part of this place and not the actual academy. He wonders how big it is. As they sit down, the voice says that they'll be arriving at sight-in shortly. So brace for impact. Adele looks surprised as when he opens his eyes, we finally are introduced to the academy. The train comes to a stop and they start getting off of it and are told to head to the auditorium for the exam. As Adele and Renee walk, there's so many people leaving the train as well. Adele says, this place is huge to the point that it feels a little overwhelming, and there are mostly young demons here, but he wonders if there are other heirs of the 7 deadly sins too. He spots some people wearing uniforms, saying that they are not students, and they seem to be the instructors. Maybe if he can make a good impression on them. Life here might be easier. Renee says that time's up. As the door closes, the lights then cut off. He says it appeared to be clearly daytime before, wondering if this is some kind of magical effect, and he doesn't know what kind of exam it will be. We hear a woman's voice telling everybody to be silent. As the light shines on her, they all look up and she glares down towards them, and she welcomes them all to sight-in, calling them a bunch of brainless idiots. She remarks in disbelief that so many people are eager to throw their lives away this year. Adele is stunned by the sheer intensity her voice alone commands. With a cold laugh, she declares that the introductions are over and the entrance exam will begin immediately. As she begins to release her overwhelming aura, Adele glances at Renee in concern, but she calmly tells him to focus on the exam instead. People around them begin choking and falling to their knees as the instructors watch the students. One of the instructors talks to the other one, saying that the headmaster sure has a twisted taste, asking what he thinks. He says, no matter how talented you are, if your mental strength is weak, it's useless. There's a reason that Headmaster Lucian personally oversees the first stage of the entrance exam, which is called the mental endurance test, just to verify whether applicants can withstand interrogation and keep secrets if captured by humans. The man says that it's been 5 minutes and almost no one is left standing, and that this must be enough for now. And aside from 8 people, everybody else fell down. She had high expectations since there were so many applicants. The man says that about 40% lasted more than 5 minutes compared to the last intake, which is a lot. She says that's a relief, and they say that this intake includes all the heirs of the 7 deadly sins house, and that the rumors must be true since there were that many applicants standing. He says that makes sense, but tells her to wait, asking who that kid is since he doesn't seem to be one of the heirs. She says that's right, but yet he stayed sane for the entire time, just like the rest. But at this rate, he's not going to last much longer as we see him on his knees. The man realizes something is wrong. Rather, something is going wrong as Adele starts to explode out with a red, ominous aura, which surprises the instructors and even gets Lucian's gaze. They realize this is dangerous. As Adid starts aura farming in the middle of them, the instructor grabs his sword, saying they need to kill him here. The instructor says that at first he didn't seem that special. But without warning the air, change around him, and it appeared to be an emotionless killing intent, just like what one would have when picking flowers or killing insects. Not the primitive killing intent of regular beasts, but that of the worst murderers. It made every single instructor turn to him, and that the dude reacted before he realized. Lucian looks over at him, surprising him, because he realizes he's in the wrong, as he shouldn't feel nervous when he's up against a mere applicant. The other instructor smiles at him, and we see people falling onto the ground still. Adele says he's going to lose his mind soon, and he needs to figure out a way to endure. He says that maybe if it's his killing intent, it might be enough to go against the aura, and he had no other choice and started screaming while releasing it. Lucian says they're holding out pretty well, and that she's going to increase the intensity a bit more. Adele starts laughing, saying that he can handle just a bit more, and their aura starts colliding with one another, rather hers disperses around him. She's surprised by this and Adal pants, but he starts to get his breath back, saying it really did work, and now he feels much better. He wonders how Renee is doing, and he glances over at her, seeing her shaking, but still standing. He says that she's holding out pretty well as expected, and that the heirs of the 7 deadly sins were also holding out pretty well too. And we are introduced to them. The heir of envy is named Bolton. The heir of lust is named Fron. The heir of gluttony is named Samuel. The heir of sloth is Aaron. The heir of greed is Gur. And Adele says that some of the characters were written with genuine affection, but they're all fated to be killed by the main character's party, and 6 of them, including Renee. Something then catches his attention, and he says that the long white hair, the red eyes, and the crown of thorns, there's no mistaking it that this is the worst villain in the future of the demonic realm. It's none other than the Demon Lord, which is the heir of wrath named Diana. The aura then stops abruptly, as that is the end of the first exam. Adele explains that the Demon King is traditionally from the family of Wrath, and there's no reason for her to be here, since the successor to the Demon Lord has legit no reason to come to Sidon as an applicant, and he wonders if something that he's not aware of happened. Some of the students begin shouting in disbelief, insisting there's no way they failed. They question the legitimacy of the exam, arguing that surely their lineage should matter. One student screams for the headmaster, only to be silenced when an instructor grabs him by the head and slams him to the ground. The instructor coldly states that he doesn't care who their parents are and demands if the student understands. He then throws him aside and declares that anyone who couldn't last 5 minutes in the first exam is unworthy. The gates are ordered closed, and those who failed are dismissed. Adele reflects that Saitan is truly ruthless. He's relieved to have passed. Then it hits him. The woman overseeing the test is the academy's headmaster. No wonder she seemed familiar. Despite her youthful appearance, she's one of the strongest beings in the demonic realm. We're formally introduced to her as Lucian. Adele acknowledges that while he was fortunate to pass the first exam, he'll need to be even more careful moving forward. The next stage will be even tougher. As others begin to talk about Renee, he notes how popular she seems. It makes sense, given that she and the others who withstood the trial are heirs of the 7 deadly sins. Still, no one seems to be paying attention to him, despite the fact that he endured the same challenge. Renee, however, congratulates him warmly, telling him he did well. He modestly replies that it was just luck, but internally he's satisfied. At the very least, he's made an impression that he's not just another ordinary applicant. He's confident the instructors, and especially the headmaster, will remember him. The instructors then yell, getting everybody's attention, and we are introduced to the male instructor named Ares, who has a tattoo on his throat. Adele says that he looks like he would carry around a knife in his pockets, and Ares congratulates them all on passing the first exam for their mental strength. It appeared to be a test to see if they could maintain sanity in a situation where they were tortured by humans in the future. Also, the 8 applicants who held out until the end will receive extra points, and if they perform just as well in the second exam, they will be allowed to enter the weaponry. Adele says that's really lucky, and he's glad that he decided to hold out until the end. And he can sense the envy from everybody else. Ares says that he will now explain the second exam, as they will be showing their abilities. In particular, they will be showing what talents and weapons they can use against humans. The class they are assigned to may depend on this exam, so they should keep that in mind. And Adele says that he must mean that they'll be assigned to the appropriate class, depending on what weapons and talents they use. And he wonders what kind of human they'll be going up against. Ares says that he will now show them who they will be facing in the second exam. As he raises his fingers and snaps them, a blue aura starts to form from his hands. Something begins to appear from the midst of the violent aura. As we see a man in a tiger outfit brandishing a weapon, and Adele recognizes him, saying that this is the strongest hero among the heads of the 6 great families, and his name is Nine Cell. Nine Cell then begins to release a blue aura, and Adele wonders why he's even here. This whole situation feels so random. Renee turns to him and asks if he knows who that is. Of course he does. That's the head of House 90, someone deeply connected to the original story's protagonist. But it's not just a close connection. His bloodline was determined from birth. This man is the protagonist's father, the legendary Sword Saint, who built the most powerful house through sheer talent alone. The other spectators quickly recognize him too, murmuring, "That's the Sword Saint. They're trying to eliminate us from the start." Adele comments, "Makes sense. He did wipe out quite a few demon houses, after all." Ares addresses the group. "Naturally, I don't expect you all to withstand the full might of the Sword Saint. He'll only be using up to 10% of his power." Renee raises an eyebrow. "Only 10%? That sounds too easy." Adele shakes his head. "Not at all. Even weakened, a monster is still a monster. 10% of his strength could destroy an entire city. How are we supposed to pass a test this brutal?" He thinks about using an information scroll to get more details, but he doesn't have much money and the number of questions is limited. Ares continues, "With your current levels, facing him alone would be suicide, so you'll be split into teams. To keep things balanced, the top 8 students will be placed in separate locations, and the rest will be assigned randomly." Adele mutters, "So I guess I won't be getting carried." Around them, students begin glaring at Renee, clearly hoping to be carried by her instead. Others shoot glares at Adele, who just sighs. "I'm used to it. They all think I just got lucky." Renee pokes his shoulder. "Get a pass and come back safe." Adele nods. "Same to you. Good luck." Ares begins calling out the groups. Adele is assigned to Group 33, along with Kenna, Chris, and Sanchez. Adele glanced around the area, his expression unreadable. He had no idea who these people were. As his new teammates gathered around, Adele took the initiative to introduce himself. Chris stepped forward soon after, introducing both himself and Kenna. Sanchez, on the other hand, looked visibly irritated. "Why is he our team leader?" Sanchez muttered under his breath. "What a disgrace to my house." Adele frowned at the comment. "Even the background characters are looking down on me? No way this guy thinks his house is that important," he thought. Trying to steer the conversation back on track, Adele said, "Let's all just do our best." Chris and Kenna nodded in agreement. "We need to assign roles," Adele continued. "Let's start with what weapons and abilities you use. Chris, you go first." Chris stepped forward, his tone confident as he explained, "My ability is mana transformation. I can deploy a triangular prism and morph it into armor or a sword. It's not high in killing power, but it's versatile." Adele gave an approving nod. "Not bad. You pass." His gaze shifted to the next teammate. "Kenna, your turn." "I'm more of a support type than a frontline fighter," Kenna replied calmly. "Support as in buffs?" Adele asked. She nodded. "I pray to the demon god to enhance my allies' speed." Without waiting for further instruction, she began chanting in an arcane language that resembled the script from an enchantment table. Almost instantly, Adele felt a subtle lightness spread through his limbs. "How does that feel?" she asked, tilting her head. "Any lighter?" Adele gave a casual shrug. "I think so." Kenna pouted. "You're mean." A soft chuckle escaped Adele. "Just joking. Don't be upset. It's better than nothing, even if I can barely feel it. Honestly, I'm not sure how you passed the first test." He then turned towards Sanchez. "Your turn. What's your ability?" "Better if I just show you," Sanchez responded coolly. As he activated his power, stone began to form and harden around his body, encasing him in a rugged, defensive shell. A hardening ability. Perfect for a tank. Sanchez narrowed his eyes. "And what about your ability?" Without warning, Adele swapped positions, reappearing directly in front of Sanchez in the blink of an eye. Startled, Sanchez stumbled backward. It's teleportation, Adele said with a grin. Chris and Kenna both looked genuinely impressed. That's a really cool ability, Kenna exclaimed. Adele then thanked them, but internally, he's cautious. There are too many unknowns. I'm not revealing my true ability just yet. He explains that the positioning of this should be simple. Chris and Sanchez, both strong defenders, position themselves at the front. He'd take the center, with Kenna providing support from the rear. He checked if everyone was okay with the plan. Kenna affirmed, while Sanchez mumbled raps from the back. Ares announced it was time for the second test, instructing each group to prepare. Adele declared the trials were finally beginning as Group 1 stepped forward. Despite facing the Sword Saint, the Sword Saint's movements seemed to slow down, only for him to instantly defeat all 4 members in a flash, stunning everyone. Screams erupted as Adele exclaimed he hadn't even seen the Sword Saint move, questioning if that was truly just 10% of his power. Ares then called Group 2, who were quickly defeated, followed by Group 3, making Kenna and Chris visibly anxious. When Group 4 was called, some members refused, unwilling to lose points from a certain defeat. Ares stared them down, offering them the option to skip the test, then asked if the remaining 2 would proceed. Their decision to go forward surprised Adele, leading him to believe this qualification was more significant than he'd initially thought, though he kept his suspicions to himself. Chris asked if skipping was truly an option, and Adele confirmed it was. The last 2 members of Group 4 now face Cell. Adele stated that 2 people couldn't possibly handle him, expressing a desire to observe longer. They were immediately overwhelmed by ranged aura attacks. Adele commented that if those had been real sword auras, they would have been cut in 2. Chris wondered if such a monster could truly be defeated, while Sanchez, despite visibly trembling, declared he wasn't afraid of a mere human. Adele chuckled. Groups 5 through 9 were quickly dispatched. Group 10 forfeited. The same happened from Group 20 up to Group 30. Adele noted that by Group 30, a total of 5 teams had forfeited, and not a single group had managed to land a meaningful strike on the Sword Saint. It was a battle against an unbeatable opponent, with no restrictions on leaving midway. However, there was a glimmer of hope as some managed to block an attack this time, surprising Chris. Adele observed that as they progressed, the fights lengthened, and the participants' skills improved compared to previous applicants. He now understood the true condition for passing the second test. Sanchez noted it would soon be their turn, and Chris admitted his fear. Adele revealed he'd figured out how to pass. The criterion was to get back up and fight until the end, even when facing overwhelming force. He was sure of it, judging by how the instructors handled quitters and the Sword Saint's immense strength. Sanchez began to speak, but Adele cut him off, only to be interrupted by Ares calling Group 33. Adele asserted they could defeat the Sword Saint with their power. Sanchez questioned his seriousness, but Chris and Kenna were both on board, stating that losing didn't matter. Adele emphasized that his half-demon status was irrelevant. With his talent, as the strongest villain, he could win. They got into formation. Adele stated it was time to begin. Unlike the main character, he lacked detailed information about Cell, as he hadn't specified much during his creation, leaving Adele wondering how to proceed. He urged them not to be nervous and to maintain their positions. Chris agreed, and Sanchez scoffed that he already knew that. The Sword Saint's aura began to swirl around his body. "He's coming," Adele yelled. Cell swung his sword upwards, shattering Chris's barrier, sending him flying. Sanchez managed to hold the line, and Adele instructed Kenna to protect Chris, which she confirmed, needing to lessen his fall's impact. Adele then told Sanchez it was his turn, and Sanchez yelled back that he knew. The next attack came. Sanchez took it head-on, enduring and fighting back. "This is good," Adele mused. He'd spotted a clear opening just before the second slash, but it seemed too obvious. His instinct screamed it was bait. He wondered if Cell had an AI. Adele announced the second attack was coming and ordered them to get back into position. Chris returned to the front, his cracked barrier signaling he was at his limit, while Sanchez's arms were also visibly cracking, all from a single hit. Adele urged them to hold on a little longer as Cell prepared his next move. It was more of the same. Chris was sent flying backward, and Sanchez, though he put his arms up to block, began losing his transformation as the attack intensified. "What are you waiting for? We're all going to die at this rate," Sanchez yelled. Adele insisted they needed to last just a bit longer, earning a "you're crazy" from Sanchez. Adele noted they were the only team to have blocked the second attack and wondered if Cell would repeat his pattern. Cell raised his blade toward them, then immediately pointed it at the ground, double-fisting it. The air began to change, and Adele realized something crucial. As Kenna tended to Chris on the ground, Adele walked over, asking Chris if he was okay. He admitted it was hard, but pleaded for one more act of trust. Chris looked pained. Sanchez, seeing Cell about to attack again, questioned Adele's actions. Chris also asked if Adele had a plan. "Of course," Adele replied with a villainous smile. "I'll drive a sword into his throat for sure." Kenna and Chris looked a bit intimidated. Cell began preparing for his third attack, aura swirling around him. "He's coming," Sanchez yelled, telling Chris to get back to the front. Adele informed Sanchez he'd have to endure this time without a barrier. Before Sanchez could ask what he meant, the attack came. Sanchez immediately lost his transformation, flying into the sky. Adele tethered himself to Sanchez, swapping positions, which put him directly above Cell. He then tethered himself to his own sword, swapping positions again and sending the sword high into the sky. Adele reared back his dagger. With Cell now weaponless, Adele declared this was his chance to kill him. As Adele moved in, Ares and Renee watched in surprise. However, Cell had actually impaled Adele straight in the chest. Just shy of stabbing Cell in the throat, Adele began spitting blood, gritting out, "I have to hold on one more time." He then activated his trait of darkness, which swirled around them, creating a small cocoon. He explained that without Chris's barrier, his insides would have burst. The position transfer failed, but at least he had Cell trapped in a pitch-black space with no trace of light. Even Adele could barely see, but he had the Fong of Darkness, which in this space was stronger than any weapon, and he vowed to defeat Cell with everything he had. To Adele's surprise, Cell moved his head slightly, immediately turned towards him, and dashed straight through the darkness. "This dude is a total monster," Adele exclaimed. Adele raised his hands, a smile spreading across his face, as if this had been part of his plan. The Fong of Darkness began to spin in the air directly behind Cell, but it wasn't alone. Multiple other attacks appeared. "This time, I'm the one who had been lured in," Adele declared, telling the sword, saying it was time for this to end. More fangs of darkness emerged from small rifts. Adele clenched his fist, activating Black Blade Rain, stabbing the sword saint all over with the fangs of darkness as his cocoon began to fade slightly. Chris and the others wondered what was happening inside. Ares stated that it was almost over. As the darkness faded away, Adele stepped forward, getting rid of his trait of darkness, revealing Cell as corpse lying face down on the ground. Everyone was surprised by this, and the room fell completely silent. Adele smiled, saying the silence meant he did good, and Bolton remarked that it looked fun. Chris and Kenna both ran towards Adele, exclaiming how amazing it was and asking how he did it. He attributed it to everyone working so well together and then asked about Sanchez. Kenna replied that Sanchez was a bit in shock, but the instructors were helping him recover. Adele expressed relief and then stated it was time they finished this. They asked what he meant, saying it was already over. Adele then stabbed Cell's body, causing his legs to twitch, prompting Chris to ask what he was doing. Adele says he needed to make sure Cell is really dead, while Ares watches intently. Fran laughs and remarks, "For a half-blood, he's not half bad." One of her simps sneers, Compared to you, he's nothing special. Fran laughs, replying, "Of course not. He was clearly born inferior. His true nature will show itself eventually." Just then, she notices Renee shooting her a death glare from the sidelines. Puzzled, Fran wonders what her problem is. She recognizes Renee's horns, definitely from the bear family, but can't figure out why she's glaring like that. It's low-key freaking her out. Some bystanders misread the tension, whispering that this kind of standoff is expected from heirs of the 7 deadly sins. They assume a battle of intimidation has already begun. Fran's top simp steps up confidently, declaring that the outcome is obvious. It'll be Fran. That other girl wouldn't even make a decent snack, he scoffs. Adele, watching from afar, notices Renee's overwhelming bloodlust and wonders what's going on. Aries approaches him, and when Adele looks up and asks what he wants, Aries responds cryptically, "Are you seriously saying that like you don't already know?" "I have no clue what you're talking about," Adele replies. Aries turns away, saying calmly, "I'm going to be watching you from now on." Adele blinks, thinking he was about to get a compliment, but instead ends up in the most awkward conversation of his life. Meanwhile, Fran and Renee are still locked stare down. Adele, now fully on Renee's side, wonders who the girl across from her even is. Based on her hairstyle and the way her horns sit uncovered on her forehead, he deduces she's from the House of Lust. Her name must be Laurel Fran. But he still doesn't get why she's picking a fight with Renee. He'd spent so much time obsessing over human world stories that he's clueless about demon world politics. Suddenly, Fran spots him in the crowd. Her eyes lock onto his, and she shouts his way. Adele flinches, caught off guard. "Become my slave," she yells boldly. Before he can react, Renee dashes forward and draws her blade in a flash. Fran, surprised, reaches for her weapon and yells, "Are you crazy?" Aries steps in, shouting, "Enough! Unprovoked fights in Sidan are forbidden. Settle your personal issues elsewhere." Adele sighs in relief that Aries de-escalated things before the entrance ceremony. Renee storms off, annoyed that she was interrupted, while Fran scoffs. She's clearly not all there. Adele approaches Renee, asking if she's okay and reminding her that her group is up next. Renee walks up to him and gently wipes the sweat off his face. "You did a good job," she says softly. Fran, watching them, narrows her eyes. What is their relationship? Fran squinted at the boy beside Renee, suspicion flickering in her eyes. Was she really dating a half-demon? Adele offered a sheepish smile, brushing a hand through his hair. "Ever since I passed, people have been treating me a lot better," he said, nodding in gratitude toward Renee. Renee didn't look convinced. She says, "You were holding back, weren't you? Playing weak." Before Adele could come up with a clever response, Group 34 was called over the loudspeaker. Renee turned to go. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone," she said over her shoulder. Adele watched her retreating back and mumbled to himself, "I used every ounce of strength I had to pass. Did I really seem that weak?" He figured Renee still believed he was just a priest from the Bear family. Then, just as abruptly, Fran spun back around. Her voice rang across the field. "State your name." Adele blinked in confusion. "Are you talking to me?" She nodded once. "Yes, you." He gave her his name, and she tilted her head slightly in approval. "Not bad," she said. "Listen, I didn't get to finish earlier. Forget that bear skank and come serve me instead. I'll show you what true appeal looks like. I'll steal you away and flatten her nose while I'm at it." Adele stared at her blankly. "I'm good, thanks. I'm here to watch Renee. Maybe next time." Fran's confident facade cracked for just a moment. Why isn't this working? She thought in dismay. But Adele was already ignoring her, eyes fixed ahead. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. Would Renee finally reveal her true strength? Being a child of the 7 deadly sins meant expectations were sky high, and he was ready to see if she'd exceed them. On the field, Renee and Cell faced each other. Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to spark with raw energy. The pressure was palpable. She's even more incredible than I imagined, Adele murmured. To everyone's surprise, even Diana's, Renee began to walk forward alone. Each step was slow, steady, filled with purpose. Bolton, watching from the sidelines, chuckled. She's got spirit. I like her. Adele couldn't believe what he was seeing. She's really walking straight up to the Sword Saint? What is she thinking? Renee came to a halt directly in front of Cell. The two warriors stood silently, auras clashing, staring one another down. For a brief moment, their energy dipped like the calm before a storm. Renee clenched her jaw. The air thickened. Cell moved first, his body coiling with deadly intent. But before his attack could land, Renee struck. With a single, perfect slash, she cut the Sword Saint cleanly in half. Adele stares, stunned. Renee turns and walks away. Behind her, Cell's lower half remains standing. He hasn't realized it yet. But he's already dead. The crowd erupts. Ares crosses his arms and says coolly, "Not bad." Adele rubs his eyes, still trying to process what just happened. No way. Did I see that right? Did she really win that easily? He figured Cell didn't even bother attacking her earlier because he had already sensed the gap in their power. Front scoffs. Shame. I wanted to see her humiliated by the Sword Saint. But if she expects to stand against me, I suppose she has to be that strong. Adele turns to her, thoughtful. Does this mean all the 7 Deadly Sins children could beat the real Sword Saint? Franz shakes her head. No one alive could do that. Maybe the previous Demon King, if they were still around. But if the children are already stronger than 10% of him, Adele argues, then they'll definitely surpass him one day. Franz glares at him. Are you mocking me? Anyone with eyes can see this replica isn't even close to 10% of the real deal. Adele sighs. Then that means even a fake gave us trouble, and he wasn't even a 10th of the original strength. He muses that while he may have created this world, he still knows nothing about the true strength of the demonic realm. His heart races with anticipation. He can't wait to see how far this goes. Only the heirs of the 7 deadly sins remain. Perhaps because of Renee's stunning performance, the others also defeat the Sword Saint with ease. The fights are so one-sided that it's hard to even tell the differences in their strength. But Adele already knows who the 2 strongest are, Diana and Renee, so he isn't too worried. Suddenly, Ares raises his voice. This concludes the entrance exam. Everyone, gather in front of the podium. He announces the results. Everyone who participated in combat, win or lose, has passed. Adele smirks. Just like I figured. Ares continues, you all did well. From this point forward, you are official members of Saitan and trainees. But don't celebrate too early. The path ahead is brutal, and many of you will want to quit. Then Ares adds, those who defeated the Sword Saint, stay where you are. Renee frowns. Why do we have to stay? Adele guesses. Maybe it's about that armory he mentioned during the first exam. A reward. Ares confirms it. You passed with flying colors. As promised, you'll have the chance to enter the armory of Saitan. Bolton raises a hand. Can we take a lot of weapons? I mean, they'd all be super useful, right? Adele smiles to himself. As expected of Lion Bolton, the son of envy. That curiosity of his even earned him a decent arc in my novel. Ares answers bluntly, no. Carrying too many weapons will dilute your focus. You may choose only one. He glances at the rest. We're short on time, so no more questions. Follow me. He approaches a stone wall and channels mana into it. A hidden door begins to glow and open. This is your perk for passing, Ares says. Whether you make the best or worst choice, it's all up to you. As Adele watches the door creak open, he mutters, why does it look like the entrance to a dungeon? Ares explains, you'll enter one by one, in reverse order that of second exam. Also, you'll be inspected upon exiting. Just in case, Ares announced. Bolton grinned. So I'm first? Time to grab the best weapon. He laughed confidently as he strode toward the armory. Shut up and get in already, Ares muttered, scowling. Renee stepped forward. I'm going to choose an artifact. I already have a weapon, she said, then turned to Adele. What about you? I'll do the same, Adele replied, though doubt lingered in his mind. If I'm going last, will there be anything worth picking by the time I get in there? Moments later, Bolton strutted out of the armory, a crown gleaming on his head. This thing's pretty cool, he said with a wide grin. Adele sighed. Figures, everyone's picking artifacts. Maybe I should go for armor instead. It's your turn, Renee said, nudging him forward. He noticed a bracelet on her wrist. You picked a bracelet? What does it do? You'll see, she replied. Most items have descriptions. Most? He asked, raising a brow. She nodded. Yeah, some don't. Adele frowned. So they're useless? Doesn't seem like it, she said. They're still kept in perfect condition. There's probably something special about them. Just then, Ares called out, You're the last one. He looked down at Adele and added, If you've got something to say it now. Adele eyed his stern expression. You look like you'd rather I said nothing. But what does it mean if an artifact has no description? It means we haven't figured out what it is yet, Ares replied. So, no known abilities or past owners? Exactly. Could be a hidden treasure or a cursed piece of junk that ruins your life. Adele grimaced. No time left. Get moving. As Adele stepped into the chamber, he muttered, Guess I'll find out whether going last is a blessing or a curse. Inside, he was immediately struck by how bright and spotless it was. Well, that's unexpected. Just hope there's nothing in here waiting to jump scare me. Adele spotted a soft glow from a nearby archway. That must be it, and stepped inside, immediately surrounded by dozens of display cases. This is insane, he muttered, eyeing a spear with an engraved plaque. Twin Fong spear, once used to hunt serpents. Spirits reside within. Infuse with mana to summon serpent forms. Cool, he said, but I already have a dagger. Pass. Next, he examined a glowing orb, starlight crystal, imbued with starlight, emits celestial light when charged with mana. Neat, but I use dark magic. Maybe as a torch. Still pass. Then he noticed an empty pedestal labeled the Great Circuit of Victor. Grants stamina and recovery until death. So that's what Bolton took, greedy bastard, Adele muttered. Didn't think I'd run into a binding item here, even after I cut them from the novel. Scanning the rest, he sighed. Bind of the Python? Gone. Flag of the Demon General? Gone. 7 deadly sins took everything. What remained looked like scraps until his eyes landed on a battered sword. No choice left. If it's cursed, that's bad. Then it hit him. He pulled out his special scroll, hesitating briefly. He needed to save gold, but decided this was worth it. He whispered, Tell me about the broken sword in the armory, the one with no description. The scroll responded, Information requires payment. Standard rate. Suspicious. Adele tested it by pointing to a damaged scroll nearby. What about that one? The reply, Reduced price. So, the higher the cost, the better the item, he realized. Spotting 7 unmarked boxes, he asked about the first. Eagle emblem, 1 coin. Effect, exchanges the owner's good fortune with someone else's misfortune. Adele laughed aloud. Wow, that's a troll item. 100 gold. Then 50. Adele sighed. None of these sound great so far, and only 2 left. One artifact was priced at 300 gold. He whistled. Mythical grade, huh? Probably the best one here. I should just take it. But something tugged at his senses. Turning, he spotted a necklace tucked on a side pedestal. It almost felt like it was watching him. A chill ran down his spine. Huh, did I miss one? He muttered. This feeling is that the original Adele's instinct. Curious, he whispered to the scroll, Tell me about the unnamed necklace. The parchment flared with blinding light. What the? Why is it reacting like this? The pressure was intense, sweat beading on his brow. Do I have to offer a god for this one? His smirk returned. Legendary, huh? I might have gotten lucky after all. The scroll dimmed and dropped to the floor. Adele muttered, suddenly anxious. Offer a god? I don't even have a minor god contract, let alone the demon god. What is this thing? He tried infusing mana. Nothing. Ugh. Just says offer a god. No clue what it actually does. He asked again, which god is connected to the necklace in the basement? The scrolls reply, offer a god. Doesn't matter how I ask. He considered walking away, but something told him not to. I'm sure of it, he said, lifting the glass. This is way more valuable than it looks. To confirm, he opened his status. Artifact info showed only. Knew it, he grinned. Nobody else would have picked this. I'll take my time figuring it out. As he exited, Ares squinted at the necklace. What's that? Adele replied casually. One of the ones without a description. Ares frowned. You picked something you know nothing about? Yup. No clue. Ares studied him, then gave a slow nod. As a sight-in instructor, I'll trust you. But take care of that artifact. In the worst moments, it might be the only thing that keeps you alive. Adele watched the other cadets laughing, talking. They were all future demon lords in the making, backed by wealth and legacy. He sighed. Wish I had just a bit of that. Will I even survive this place? Ares dismissed them, reminding everyone about the entrance ceremony in 2 days. As Adele walked with Renee, she said, let's head back to the dorm. He nodded. Yeah. Then someone called out, Yo, Adele. It was Bolton, grinning wide. Hey, sorry if I was rude before. Adele turned. Oh, it's fine. Bolton approached and offered a handshake. The way you fought, I liked it. Name's Bolton. They shook hands. Nice to meet you, Adele said, though inwardly confused. Why is he being friendly now? Then, crack. Gah. Adele's eyes widened as Bolton's grip crushed his hand. What the hell is this guy doing? He forced a smile through the pain. Bolton didn't care about the weak. He was jealous or worse, hungry for a fight. In a novel, this man nearly dragged both demon and human worlds into ruin. He only spared people if he thought it'd lead to a better battle later. Bolton leaned in, voice calm. You're looking pale. Adele says it's nothing, but he thinks that there are people stronger than him nearby. This makes him wonder why Balthan would have come specifically for him. He tethered his mana to Bolton's sword, swapped places with it, and dropped it several feet away. Bolton blinked. Adele pulled back, cradling his hand. Yeah, let's stop here. The test's over. Everyone's tired. A brief silence followed before Bolton burst into laughter, eyes gleaming. Did not see that coming. You're fun. I want to fight now to the death. Adele stepped back. Hell no. I'm serious. I'm not. A voice cut through Bolton. Renee yelling from across the courtyard. Cut out already. Renee marched over, voice sharp. If you want to fight my guard, you'll have to go through me first. Bolton laughed. Tempting, but fighting both of you before school starts? Nah, I'll wait. He gave Adele a wave. Next time, yeah. Adele blinked, confused. Bolton had just said he didn't want to get hurt, but also wanted a death match. The guy was unhinged. He could tell Bolton was still eyeing him. He was likely trying to figure out when Adele had drawn his weapon. Renee turned and said, Let's go. Yes, Adele nodded, thinking it had only been 1 day, but it already felt like weeks. Still, he mused that life at the academy might not be so bad. Back at the dorm, Adele let out a long breath as he opened the window. Maybe it's everything that happened yesterday, but I feel good today. His body felt stronger, lighter. He was already growing. Spotting the new uniform, he was surprised. They delivered it to his room. That's surprisingly thoughtful. He slipped it on, impressed. Way more comfortable than he expected, which you will be stuck wearing this for 3 years. He picked up the second uniform, Renee's. Curious, he debated checking how it looked on her, then knocked the door. Who is it? Me, he said. Just wanted to see if you needed anything before I head out. Come in. He opened the door and froze. Sunlight streamed behind her as she stood there, blushing faintly in uniform. You're beautiful, he blurted. She looked away, ears red. Going somewhere. Cute, he thought. Yeah, it's my day off. Thought I'd walk the city. You should rest. I'll get going. Wait, she said, stepping forward. You still have something to do. Something I forgot? He wondered. She then stated, "Guard." Adele's expression shifted as he remembered his duty to guard her, a task he had completely forgotten in his excitement about resting alone. "I'll come too. Just give me a second to change." He stood there awkwardly until she asked, "How long are you going to stare?" "All right, I'll wait outside." He stepped out, nearly tearing up. "It's my day off. Why do I never get to rest?" Later, walking through the city, Adele glanced around. Hard to believe a war happened here just 10 years ago. It's so clear, so alive. Looking toward the outskirts, he added, "The outer zones still show damage, but the capital? Looks like the humans never managed to take it." Renee tugged at his sleeve. "I want to eat that." He followed her gaze, a street vendor grilling skewers. He inquired about the skewers, learning they were seasoned buck and veggies. After accepting two, he and Renee sat down. Adele took a bite, remarking on how good it was and asking for her opinion. Renee's eyes lit up as she enthusiastically declared, "This stuff is great." Adele almost choked. Someone like her making that face? Maybe she really is starting to open up. They wandered the city, stopping before a statue of a woman. Adele frowned. He admitted to not knowing who the statue depicted. "You don't recognize her?" Renee asked, revealing it was the first Demon King. He looked again. Now that you say it, she just kind of looked like Diana. He stepped closer, marveling at being able to see her face so closely. Suddenly, the statue's eyes glowed. That surprised Adele. His necklace pulsed with a blinding light as a green beam shot from the statue, surging directly into it. Adele stumbled back, heart pounding. "What the hell is happening?" he gasped, clutching the glowing necklace as the light faded, only to find one of the jewels had turned completely gray. Renee looked over. "Why are you just standing there staring at it?" Still dazed, Adele blinked. "I saw a light from the statue, and my necklace, it changed color." He studied her expression. Was she pretending not to see it? But she looked completely calm. So it was just him then. Back then, it only gave cryptic messages like "offer a god." But now, something tied to the first Demon King herself? A new determination lit in his eyes. If he followed the trail back to her, maybe he'd uncover the truth behind the necklace. Renee suggested they return, and Adele nodded in agreement. The next day, the grand auditorium buzzed with chatter as roughly 100 new students took their seats, the instructors and headmaster waiting at the front. Adele eyed the stage. So this was the entrance ceremony? Seemed normal enough. Students whispered, "Is the headmaster really that little girl?" "She looks like a kid." Adele rolled his eyes. "A kid? She nearly crushed us all with just her presence. And they're calling her cute? She's got tattoos and looks 10, he muttered. "What's wrong with my eyes? I did call her cute earlier." The headmaster's head snapped toward him with a glare. Adele froze. I meant adorable. Absolutely adorable." "'Cause she read minds?" Aries clapped his hands. Silence. The entrance ceremony is about to begin. The headmaster stepped forward and gave a brief, formal speech until her voice dropped, sharp and commanding. "You are now bound by the rules of Sidon." With that, she stepped down and Aries took her place. "Now we will proceed with the oath of the top cadet and runner-up," he announced. As expected, Diana and Bolton stepped forward. Adele wasn't surprised. Renee didn't seem fazed either. She was only here for one thing: revenge. Rankings didn't matter to her. But for him, he had to keep pushing forward, no matter what. A chill ran down his spine. He turned, and there was Bolton pointing again. "Why is this guy obsessed with me?" Adele looked away, pretending not to notice. "Not today, man." Diana took the stage, and every gaze fixed on her. Blessed by the gods, Adele thought. No one stopping her. Then Diana and Bolton spoke in perfect unison. "We will wipe away disgrace and rebuild the demonic realm." The air shifted, their words hitting hard. Pain and fury born from losing everything to humans. Adele clutched his cloak. "If anyone finds out I'm arson bloodline, I'm dead. Eternal torture." Aries stepped forward. "The ceremony is concluded. Check the bulletin board behind you for your class." Once confirmed, proceed to your rooms. Adele turned to Renee. Let's check it out. He spotted his name. Class A. All right. Then he glanced at Renee's card. You're in Class C? New. Too bad. Renee rolled her eyes. Wipe that dumb look off. You're still my guard. So when I call, you should come, as he stated. Adele nodded. Maybe now I can finally relax a bit. But as he turned, he bumped into someone hard. The guy stared at him like he'd insulted his entire bloodline. You want to die? Adele froze. That aura. Gluttony? That's Samuel, one of the 7 deadly sins. He groaned inwardly. Why are all the sins kids like this? Is it genetic? Wasn't paying attention. Sorry, he muttered. Samuel scoffed. TCH, get lost. You're lucky it's the first day. Adele rubbed his forehead. Why does trouble find me like this? Elsewhere, a woman instructor folded her arms. You don't believe me? Aries answered coolly. It's not about belief. She huffed. I am an instructor too, you know. You're too soft for someone like him. Aries replied. I've dealt with people like him. He's dangerous. Let me handle it. The woman glared. I already have students assigned. I'm Class A's instructor. You can't just waltz in and override me. Before things escalated, Lucian stepped in. Enough. Sit down, Ada. Why is it always me? Ada muttered, dragging herself into her seat with a theatrical sigh as Lucian turned to Aries. Then tell me, why do you want to switch classes? Aries didn't even hesitate. I intend to handle Adele personally, he said flatly. He has the eyes of a killer. If provoked, he could easily turn his blade on allies without a second thought. Someone like him must be restrained before that happens. A few instructors chuckled under their breath. He's just a half-demon, one scoffed. He's not even close to the level of the 7 sins kids. But Aries' gaze hardened. Strength isn't about raw power. It's about composure. Audacity. He moves like someone born for chaos and stays calm inside it. That's what makes him dangerous. The room fell quiet. Even the skeptics knew he wasn't speaking lightly. This is why I'm requesting to oversee Class A myself, he added. Ada stood up sharply. So, what you mean, you don't trust me? Aries quickly replied that's not what he meant and apologized if he made her feel bad. Lucian groaned, rubbing his temples. Enough. No reshuffling the roster. We keep things as they are. Adele stays in Class A. Aries bowed slightly. Understood. Lucian turned to Aries. Still, watch him closely. Aries sighed. I got it. Then go, Lucian said. Your students are waiting. Later that day, Adele slumped in the back of the classroom. Why is it always me? Fron burst into laughter beside him. What's with that face? At least Bolton and Diana aren't here, he muttered. But Samuel is, she added helpfully, nodding toward the glowering figure in the corner. Adele's face twisted in despair, realizing the inevitable. Of course he is. Fron playfully teased. Don't tell me you followed me here. Adele stiffly replied that the assignments were random. Perfect, she chirped. Now you can be my slave. He groaned. She's already starting. Can you two shut up before I kill you? Samuel growled without even looking at them. Fran's glare flared as she retorted. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? Adele attempted to mediate with a weak smile. Let's all do our best. A single tear slid down his cheek, lamenting, first day, and I'm already crying. Suddenly, the door slammed open with a loud bang. A scarred woman in a fluttering cloak strode in, unimpressed. You're all too damn loud, she said. No way you're already fighting. Adele blinked. Wait, that's Ada? He wondered. She then clapped her hands, commanding attention. Listen up. I'm your instructor. Name's Ada. Some call me the Legion of Calamity. The room fell into stunned silence, broken by gasps as students recognized the moniker. She's the one who wiped out 10,000 humans at Pollock River, someone whispered in awe. I heard it was 30,000. Adele stiffened, realizing they were being taught by a living legend. He thought that perhaps he had a shot at surviving after all. Ada grinned. I'll be teaching you how to hunt. A hand shot up, asking, You mean like demonic beasts? Nope. She smirked. Humans. Adele sat up straight, his focus sharpened, acknowledging the quick escalation. But don't get it twisted, she continued. I'm just covering the methods. Magic and weapons are someone else's job. I also handle stamina training. Adele groaned, recognizing it as his one weakness. Fran leaned over, commenting, for a war legend, she's got a pretty cute face. Ada then instructed, no more talk. Move to the training grounds. Class starts now. The field was massive, easily 4, maybe 5 times the size of a standard arena. Adele's eyes swept across the space, wondering what they would be doing, whether it was swordplay or magic. Ada stood at the center of the clearing. Everyone here? Good. Focus, and keep your eyes on this. She extended her hand, and the air twisted. Mana surged, dark and dense. A rift split open in front of her, and from it, figures emerged. 1, then 3, then dozens. Adele's body tensed. What the hell is that? Ada's voice was calm. Don't panic. These aren't real humans. But they looked real, down to the shine on their weapons and the fury in their eyes. They're just illusions, Adele muttered, recalling the sword saint from the exam. But his eyes locked onto Ada. She created the sword saint. Of course she did. He swallowed hard, thinking she's a monster. This academy is far more dangerous than I realized. Ada's voice rang out again, clear as crystal. The task is simple. Get through the human formation. Reach me. Her eyes swept over the class, then locked onto Adele. Why don't you try stabbing me in the throat like you did the sword saint? A beat passed. Adele stared at her, caught between confusion and disbelief. She's smiling. Is she a freak too? It wasn't just Ares anymore. Now Ada had noticed him as well. Am I sparring with her directly? As if reading his thoughts, Ada continued. Among these humans is their instructor, the source of their discipline and morale. Take down the leader, and the rest will collapse like dominoes. Her smirk deepened. I'll play the leader. Adele's eyes narrowed. I see. Sun Tzu's art of war. Defeat the enemy by capturing their chief. He cracked his knuckles, confidence flaring. Should be easy for someone like me. Adele's gaze sharpened with something colder. Ada then reminded him, of course, you won't be defeating me. If you can so much as touch me with your weapon, or even lay a finger on me, I'll count it as a pass. Around her, the illusions surged up like a tide, shields locking, blades raised, forming a tight phalanx. Begin. Without hesitation, Adele activated position transfer. In an instant, he vanished from view. Then in the blink of an eye, he was behind Yada. Dagger pressed to her throat. She didn't flinch, but her eyes widened just slightly, betraying a flicker of surprise. Adele leaned in, voice a whisper. Does this count as a pass? His blade touched her skin, then stopped. A radiant shimmer pulsed between steel and skin, halting the edge in place. A barrier. Ares looked down and laughed. Now I get it, she murmured. This is why Ares warned me about you. She gently pushed the blade away and smiled. You pass. Return to your spot. Adele nodded and stepped back, but his mind raced. Curiosity? Hostility? What exactly about me is setting them off like this? He glanced at her from the corner of his eye. They can't know the truth, can they? Ada turned back to the class, voice bright and dangerous. Now that you've seen Adele, let's raise the stakes. Anyone who fails will be taking additional classes. A collective groan rose as the students surged forward. Die, humans! One shouted, charging the illusions with reckless abandon. Adele watched from the sideline. They've got good instincts, as expected from demons. But instincts weren't enough. Spears shot forward, illusions overwhelming, and within moments, half the class was down. Some cadets tried leaping over the formation, only to be shot mid-air by phantom archers, and was immediately skewered before hitting the ground. Adele sighed, blinking. Position transfer really is overpowered. If I play this right, I might just top the class. Next, Ada called, and Samuel stepped forward, his shadow falling across Adele. Move, Samuel growled. Adele, leaning back lazily, wondering whether his cockiness matches his skill or not. Samuel walking to the front and addressing Ada directly. "I'll begin now." Adele's body tensed the moment the wind shifted. Dust spiraled up from the ground, the air thickened, and energy crackled beneath Samuel's feet. Then the explosion came. A towering emerald tornado ripped across the field, and hurling illusionary soldiers like leaves in a storm. In a matter of seconds, the entire illusion army was gone, obliterated by a single attack. Adele shielded his eyes, his jaw tight, thinking magic is insane. That has to be his unique ability. He watched the destruction with a mix of awe and calculation, noting it chews through everything. A small smirk touched his lips as he conceded, "Fine. I'll let him take the top spot for now." Ada simply brushed the wind from her coat like it was a passing breeze, looking more entertained than impressed. "Wow," she said. "What's up with this batch?" But her tone was more amused than serious. Samuel stepped back, silent. He seemed to expect the pass, but Ada raised her hand and snapped her fingers. The entire battlefield shimmered. 200 illusions instantly reappeared, fully armed and ready. Samuel's face froze as Ares coolly stated, "You failed." Samuel's fists clenched, and he uttered a disbelieving, "What? You didn't take down the leader." She gestured to herself, voice even. "Until I fall, the humans will always return. That's how war works." Samuel stood in silence as Ares's gaze lingered on him. "Still," she added lightly, "that magic of yours is impressive for a first year." He hadn't expected to fail, not like this. Adele didn't miss a beat. Samuel turned and walked back to his place in silence. Adele glanced over and noted the look on his face. He's furious, but he's handling it well, Adele thought, watching Samuel stew in silence. That's a face full of discontent, but no tantrum. Impressive. A loud, dramatic laugh suddenly cut through the air. "Well, have you all waited long enough? Now it's finally my turn." Franz strutted forward, hands on her hips like she was about to deliver divine judgment. A couple students whispered to each other, curious. "How's she going to do it?" Adele didn't have to wonder. Franz raised her voice and began ordering the illusionary humans in front of her. "You dare block my path. Know your place." She let out another grandiose laugh as the rest of the class stared in confusion. But she wasn't commanding anyone at all. She kept laughing and sweating. A bead of sweat rolled down her temple. She's panicking, Adele realized. As expected, she doesn't fight directly. She commands her minions like a queen bee. But without them, she's helpless. Her confidence collapsed. Franz's lips quivered, her eyes darting nervously. I need to do something." Her gaze locked on Adele, and her eyes lit up with inspiration. A moment later, she turned toward him and burst into tears, calling him a slave. Everyone went silent. "Did she just call him a slave?" someone whispered. Adele became annoyed, questioning what Franz could possibly be thinking by saying something so outrageous. Meanwhile, Franz wailed and demanding immediate help. Before Adele could react, Iada calmly pointed her finger, and the illusionary humans surged forward. Franz screamed as they began to mercilessly beat her. Adele stood blinking, wondering if Franz was unable to cast buffs on herself, as that shouldn't be the case. He considered that there might be some specific reason for it. Franz's cries turned shrill, pleading for help. Adele's eyes flicked to the side, where he spotted a student casting a healing spell on someone's injured leg, completely restoring the knee. He recognized it as healing magic, a rare ability, especially among demons. His eyes locked onto the girl responsible, realizing she must be a half-demon with a healing affinity and in the same class as him. He stared, his thoughts racing, unable to recall her name, but determining he needed to find a way to connect with her. Suddenly, Ada called and asked Adele to help Franz. "Would you be so kind as to help her walk now that the test's over?" He sighed, responding, "Understood. I'll be on my way. He strolled over and stood in front of Fran's crumpled form, then reached down and lightly poked her forehead. Useless, he muttered. Ow, she yelped. Get up already. It's over. She sat up slowly, trembling. Why, you saw it all, didn't you? Saw what? Don't act clueless, she shouted, her face red. Calling you my slave? How humiliating. I saw you looking weaker than a slave, he replied flatly. You're mocking me, aren't you? Before she could hurl another insult, Ada clapped her hands, signaling the end. All right, everyone, clean up and gather around. Ada addressed the exhausted cadets, stating, I had expectations, and the results were about what I expected. She acknowledged their effort for a first lesson, emphasizing that experience was more crucial than victory. She highlighted the importance of understanding individual strengths, weaknesses, and limits to foster mutual support and cohesion within the group, forming a cohesive unit. Adele thoughtfully nodded, contrasting this approach with the Human Empire's Academy, where students were strictly divided by ability, noting that here, synergy seemed to be prioritized. He recognized Ada's attempt to emphasize teamwork and cohesion. Ada's voice rose again, announcing, In the end, only one of you passed. Her eyes turned to Adele and says that she will be looking forward to Adele's progress. He blinked and responded, Understood. I'll work hard to learn everything I can. She offered a faint smile and instructed them to return to the classrooms for the next class. Adele wondered if Ada's words were praise. Then why did it sound so hostile? He then seized Samuel, and it seemed to have made him even angrier. Fran was still trailing after him, muttering about slaves, leaving Adele to doubt his ability to build his own faction. Back in the classroom, the theoretical education instructor introduced himself and began lecturing. The students learned about the history of the demonic realm, its social structure, and, most importantly, the weaknesses of humans. Adele sat, half listening and half taking notes. When the instructor began explaining human and demon body structures, a thought crossing his mind about demonic vulnerabilities. The lecturer concluded and announced a quiz on the day's material for the next session, warning them to remember everything if they wished to avoid remedial lessons. Adele closed his book with a dull thud and let his head fall against the desk. Is this for real? He mumbled into the wood. It was just like his old school days all over again. He sighed heavily. It's only my first day, and I already feel defeated. Around him, the other students laughed, chatted, and mingled with ease. Their voices filled the room with light energy, contrasting sharply with the heavy gloom hanging over Adele's head. No friends, just like back then, a single tear trailing down his cheek like a dramatic stage actor. Cursed to be forever alone. But then he spotted her, the healer girl from earlier. She stood near the window, talking to no one, simply enjoying the breeze. Adele sat up, eyes narrowing. This might be my chance. With as much confidence as he could fake, he approached. Hey, he called, voice just a bit too loud. A few heads turned. Curious gazes followed him. He felt the pressure. I'm Adele. It's nice to meet you. The healer girl blinked. Nice to meet you too. The room buzzed with whispers. Adele forced a chuckle. Guess when two half-demons talk, it draws attention. Her smile faded slightly. She looked uncomfortable. Too forward, Adele realized. I'll save the rest of the conversation for next time, he said quickly, stepping back. She nodded politely. Goodbye. He turned around and sighed, dragging his feet. Well, that could have gone better. Maybe I'll just head to the restroom, he muttered. Feed my loneliness. That little poison dragon. He pushed the restroom door open and came face to face with Samuel. Adele froze. This is terrible timing. Samuel's eyes narrowed. What do you want? Adele raised his hands innocently. I was just about to leave. I'll go after you. Samuel scowled. You're nauseating, you low-class creature. Adele stopped. That again. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. Your family must be amazing, he said coolly. Samuel's brows twitched. What did you just say? To have produced garbage that can walk and talk like you. They must be something special. Samuel's whole body tensed. His fists clenched. His aura exploded outward in a dark wave of fury. "I'll tear you to pieces," he growled. Adele didn't flinch. Unlike Bolton, this one's not just arrogant. He's got pure hatred behind him. Real hostility. Adele's fingers brushed against the hilt of his dagger. "If he's going to get in the way of my plans, it might be better to deal with him now." A storm brewing between them, until a voice sliced through the air like a whip. "That's enough." They both stopped. Standing in the doorway was the lecturer for their next class, arms folded, his expression unreadable. "We're starting class," he said flatly. "Take your seats." "That's not a suggestion." Adele and Samuel blinked in unison. When did he get there? Neither had noticed his presence until now.